Functional freeze is a trendy term right now, and it's a way that it's another way people are trying to talk about survival mode. I think in our culture and in our world, I mean that globally, right now, there's lots of searching for words trying to articulate WTF. Because I think there's a lot of things happening that there really is no words. So I want to do a little reminder of where this comes from. And in that, I thought it might be helpful because, Am can't just do one thing at a time. I need to throw 3 topics in there at once just because they overlap. I thought it might be helpful to revisit what's happening in our brain to get a reminder and some more compassion around why this is such an effective tool. So, questions that I've gotten around this are, Amber, does this show up in complex PTSD and in PTSD? Yes, it does. And the difference in complex PTSD and PTSD in the most basic form is complex PTSD is considered to be developmental trauma where there is a pattern of unpredictability that impacts development, aka childhood trauma, family of origin trauma. So complex PTSD means my brain has learned to live in the unpredictable. PTSD means my brain has suffered trauma due to an experience. Maybe it was in childhood, maybe it was in my adult life, and it is far more associated with a single occurrence. I'm not sure how and why people think war veterans is a single occurrence, because that's a longitudinal experience, if you ask me. And that's what the books will say if you read it. The reason that I'm bringing this up is because both of those that go unrepaired, whether it's PTSD or whether it's complex PTSD, what makes that dysfunctional to our life and literally what makes it a diagnosis is that it's not repaired and it's not healed. My brain stays in a survival state that keeps me stuck or limited. Now, when we go back to basics, what we know is the part of my brain that is impacted by trauma. I did it in Canva rather than doing it on a piece of paper because I thought this might be easier for you guys to see, especially as I'm recording. But the most important thing to remember when it comes to biological impacts to the body and the brain from trauma is, in this profile shot, prefrontal cortex is right here behind the forehead, and amygdala is kind of tucked in back here in the occipital lobe. And the important thing to remember about these two is when one is on, the other is off. If there's anything that you remember, you get an A+ on this quiz if you remember when one is on, the other is off. They cannot be on at the same time, and I'm going to show you why. The amygdala's job is fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, aka stress responses. Those are the survival tactics that we use in a case where our brain decides the experience I'm in is trauma and I'm going to live or die. Those are one of the 4 options that it can choose. That's it. There's no extras. Freeze is the one that I wanted to talk about tonight when it comes to functional freeze. It's very trendy, and I don't mean disrespect when I say it that way. It's just people not in recovery trying to learn and understand, like, what's happening. Why am I stuck? Why am I not following through with things? Why am I struggling to finish projects? Why can I not make decisions? Well, the reason that that's happening is because when my amygdala is driving the bus, or when my amygdala is on and my prefrontal cortex is off, prefrontal cortex is in charge of decision making, analyzing. Don't judge me if I can't spell, because I'm pretty sure something's wrong. And logic. In order for me to get unstuck, this is the part of my brain that I need in order to discern which of these options is the best one for me. AKA other trendy topic that is in our culture right now is executive functioning coach or executive functioning skills, which is all about the prefrontal cortex. What we also know is the part of our brain that is impacted by things like addiction is the prefrontal cortex. That's the part of our brain that goes offline. And so when our loved one is experiencing and having all of these behaviors, and we're like, who the fuck are you? This is why. When I am surviving and I feel a little batshit crazy because my amygdala is driving the bus, and I don't feel like I'm finishing anything, and I'm ADSing all over the place, this is why. It's because my executive functioning skills are not the ones that are on. My amygdala is. When one is on, the other is off. In a functional freeze state, the reason that we're stuck is because I'm in freeze. And while some people will struggle to grasp that because it seems like, Amber, I'm able to do other things in my life. Okay. Most of you guys know what that means. Willow's scratching up my door. I'm sorry. I'm happy to explore that. And the theme or the pattern that one will notice is I feel stuck. I feel like I can't make a decision on what I want, or I can't decide where we're going on vacation. We are, as a culture, we're so good at minimizing that. Looking at fight, flight, freeze, fawn, the first interpretation that many of us have is this drastic one, right? Because I even use examples of, this is the part of your brain when you're at the zoo and the kid falls into the zoo or the lion exhibit. Like, that's the part of the brain that comes on in order to save the child. What is really hard to comprehend and to process is, hey, Am, why is that the part of my brain coming on when I'm arguing with my spouse? And I say, that's a really good question. While, yes, there can be triggers in my partnership, in my marriage, or in my home. Maybe it's the part of my brain that's coming on when my kid's having a meltdown. The reason that that's happening is because my brain has learned any danger is this kind of danger. We are habitual creatures. And until that trauma is healed, that's the go-to. So when any experience in my body mimics or feels like that hypervigilant type of experience, the amygdala is what's going to come on and the prefrontal cortex is going to go off. Please Please don't try to apply logic to this because the amygdala is not logical and it's not relational. It is about die or stay alive. So when my body has learned that I am in danger and I need to keep myself alive, there is no continuum. There is no, well, this isn't as dangerous as that. Do you want to know why? Because that's the job of the prefrontal cortex. So when we are looking at what many people call this is trauma brain, when we are looking at trauma brain, we are looking at two of these really specific parts of the brain, how they show up in trauma and how they show up in recovery. The way that you have probably heard me teach this in the past is we have to trigger the prefrontal cortex to come back on. Oftentimes I've told the story of one of my first therapists and them telling me to count to 10 and breathe. It didn't go so well. But the point of that is by using that skill in my brain, it triggers the prefrontal cortex. Now, in a freeze state, when I'm in a functional freeze state, and to the other request for tonight, waiting on clarity or certainty keeps you stuck, is because if I'm in a functional freeze state, I'm not noticing anything. Does that make sense? My body is in a live or die state. My perception is not broad. It is really narrow. I am not noticing the butterflies and what's going on around me. I'm not noticing tone. I'm not noticing, oh, this is my 8-year-old on the floor because he has no capacity today, struggling to make it through. This is not a lion trying to eat me. The continuum or that gray area that I'm describing is the role of the prefrontal cortex. That's our recovery saying, I'm okay. This is not a lion. I can breathe. It is that loving parent coming back online. Well, the way that we give the amygdala that CPR is through our senses. It's that simple. The brain's 5 senses is the language that tells the amygdala it's okay, go back to sleep. Prefrontal cortex, come back on. When one is on, the other is off. So when we're feeling stuck, when we're at times, how this has looked for me is my perfectionism is really fucking loud. And I'm waiting for the perfect time or the perfect opportunity, or I keep rewriting it for the perfect pitch. None of those are real because I'm in a functional freeze state. I can't notice all the effort and all the things that I'm doing because that part of my brain isn't even on. And most of the time, especially if you've experienced recovery and you've experienced an embodied, grounded state, this is an Amberism. Most of the time, we even have the ability to say, I feel crazy as shit right now. Like, I just can't, like, something's wrong. The 5 senses support the amygdala in this almost like a CPR. So it's like, okay, amygdala, you're all right. Calm down, chill out. And prefrontal cortex, here's some oxygen. Come back online. And when we get into this state of access to our prefrontal cortex, then we can make movement. Then we can make a decision on what's the next right step. If you have a loved one, or if this is you, and you've experienced something that is chronic, whether that is chronic pain, a chronic medical condition, addiction, a mental health disorder that has a relapse, an autoimmune disorder that has a relapse. When you experience something that is chronic, whether that is for your loved one or in your body, oftentimes the amygdala is the one that comes on, and we're kind of like, what do I do? What do I do? For me, what I'm describing and modeling right now is fawning because I want to fix it. How do I fix it? What do I do? Who do I call? How do I help? Or I might freeze in maybe even pretend that it's not real. Maybe in a state of denial of I'm gonna go over here and cook dinner. Or maybe I might even antagonize an argument because I'm trying to create some normalcy. Or maybe I leave and I decide, you know what, I'm going to go out with the girls tonight. It feels in my body when I think of things like breathing, counting to 10, open your eyes and five things, go touch 5 things, go smell something. I'm literally did this last week in a meditation because my body was so hijacked. And I know it intellectually, I know it, but to know it in the wisdom of my body is to use my tools. It's to know this is one of the things that helps me come back online. And while I have a very strong relationship with my amygdala, thank you, amygdala, and it was not a lion. It was scary as shit, but it was not a lion. So when I'm trying to forecast, when I'm trying to make plans, when I want to have a creative experience, all of that includes the ability to have a future perception. I can't be in survival mode when I need to do that. If I'm trying to write a story, if I'm trying to create a project or write a training, if I'm in a creative space, I will notice I don't have any juju. Like I don't have any direction. I don't know what's happening. I don't have any ideas. Yeah, it's probably because my amygdala is the one driving the bus. I don't have any future orientation when my amygdala is on. And so just the opportunity to look at this, number one, with that's a fucking superpower that our amygdala is that strong and is that available. And number two, almost, this is definitely not Piper, but if Piper were a protective dog, she might lick you to death. That's the extent of it. If I'm out walking Piper, it's almost like Piper is my amygdala and I want to tell her, it's okay, I got this. That is using all my recovery tools. She would, again, lick the person to death, not harm the person. But looking at my amygdala from a state of compassion, because oftentimes what we do when we don't understand is we experience shame. I can't do this. I can't cope. I'm not strong enough for this. Or some level of self-talk that has to do with weakness, or I can't handle anything. Yeah, no. We don't have that kind of power over our brain. When we are trained and conditioned, it shows up. So all of this body work that we do in recovery, when we accept the messages from our body, when our body sends me these messages, it's like a gift from a friend. My body shows up for me. That's all it's supposed to do. That is its job. So if I can address this with compassion, those tools become more effective. And all of a sudden, I can also see why, oh, no wonder I have no future orientation right now. I don't feel creative at all. I might notice or feel a sacral chakra block. Like whatever that is for you and however it shows up for you, it is recognizing that your body's not okay and it's needing something. So much like when you're hungry and your tummy's growling, when the amygdala is on, I want to let her know it's okay. We got this. These are our tools to get there. And as soon as those tools start showing up and my body starts to stabilize, I come back online. I can see things clearly. I have future orientation. I'm able to brainstorm or to take action steps. But until those things happen, it's not a realistic expectation.